inviting us all here tonight, because without them, I'd probably be giving this speech in the back alley behind Pierre's tonight. First off, Sarah, you look absolutely stunning tonight. Next to my wife, the next best thing. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Michael and I'm the best man here tonight. You can just ask my wife about it, she'll tell you all about it. She's sitting right over there at table 6. She's the blonde. So I first met Danny, freshman year in high school, and that's when the trouble began. It was during an awkward stage in the young man's life where your feet and your head are too big for your body, and your voice sounds like Peter Brady. We definitely had a lot of good times in high school. Maybe got just a little bit of trouble here and there. My father or Tom Apple can contest to that because they're the ones that had to come pick us up. It's true. It is true. And it was definitely hard to imagine years later us being old and married with kids and such. After high school, we both had this great idea to join the military. I ended up joining the Army, and Dan had to one-up me by joining the Marine Corps. And of course, we have Andy Beers here. He's in the Share Force. Excuse me, I'm in the Air Force. Young men over here just enlisted in the Navy. They enlisted him as a first-class seaman. So the recruiter didn't tell him about the hot racks, the welcome ships, but that aside, we're proud of him. You know, Justin Bieber here and all. I don't know what we were thinking. My first duty station a few months later after basic training was in Songtan, South Korea. And months later, Danny was right across the pond in Japan. It's a good thing for the Bush administration that we never had the audacity to meet up and paint the town red, because that would have had international incident written all over it. It is true. Several years later, after the tour of duty was over, me and Dan ended up meeting back here in Fort Wayne on military leave. Dan's next duty station was going to be in Miramar, California, Fighter Town, USA. If you're not familiar with it, it was made famous by the filming of Top Gun. So we decided to take a road trip out there. And we set a Guinness Book of World Records by driving there in under 26 hours. Of course, we listened to Highway to the Danger Zone the entire way. It's true, we did. I was 21 years old at the time, and Danny was still 20. So we had to set him up with the proper credentials for a night on the town in Las Vegas. Barbado Rodriguez, I believe. So we both had military IDs back then, and back the older style military IDs, your birthday was on the back of it. So me and Dan had this great idea. We photocopied the back of my military ID. Dan worked an admin position in the Marine Corps at the time, so he had access to the military ID card laminated with DoD hologram. So we laminated my ID card on the back of his.
Josh.
Let me tell you, this ID card was flawless. Much better than the fake Bishop Dwenger ID cards we used to make. That said we were makes his way over finally. Car just both. I switch it up a bit by showing him my Indiana State driver's license. Dan shows him his new military ID card that we made for him. He looks at them both and says, "You guys have the same birth date?" And Dan says, "Well, yeah, we're brothers." And he says, "All right, good luck, gentlemen." Apparently, he must have went to Las Vegas Community College. He completely neglected the fact that we have different last names and we look completely different. Whatever. We had a good time. Dan, you've been like a brother to me since high school, and we've had a hell of a lot of good times, man. I could go on for hours about the good times we've had. Several years later, I ended up moving to Alabama with my wife, Heidi. We have kids. Me and Dan kept in touch over the years through phone and email. Dan's telling me about this great girl he started dating, and then he just can't wait for me to meet her. Last fall, I finally moved back to Fort Wayne, and I finally do meet Sarah, and it was obvious that these two were meant to be together. Hell, even Helen Keller could see these two. Several months later, me and Dan are at Tom Epple's house, down in the basement playing pool. That's when the crazy talk started. Dan started talking all this stuff about settling down and having kids. And then Dan paused and looked at me and said, "Mike, what do you think about marriage?" And I said, "Dan, you're a great guy, and I'm flattered, but I'm not that kind of guy." Yeah, Dan was a smart man. He found himself a beautiful, successful businesswoman that already owned the house, you know. One less thing, right? So I come over to Sarah's house one day, and Dan's out back building a deck behind her house. That's when I knew he was in it for the long haul. So I've been doing this whole marriage thing for about 4 years now. You can just ask the blonde on the other side of the room. I know a thing or two about it. So Sarah, let me give you a piece of advice. Having a husband is kind of like building a deck. If you lay it right the first time, you can spend the rest of your life walking all over it. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise your glasses and join me in a toast to Danny and Sara. May they enjoy a lifetime of happiness together. The best is yet to come.